Okay, so we're finishing up Siman Shin Yud Tes, and we are saying Seif Chav Zayin and Alter Rebbe, which says Noistin Shumshamin ve'agoizim ledvash ulovad shelei chabtzim biyodov. One may place sesame seeds and nuts and honey, as long as one does not shape them into a mass by hand. So the way that's
another word for that.
Huh?
Another word for
And if you're doing with the spoon,
לא משנה.
so the yellow.
No, it's an example.
מה זאת אומרת?
לעשות
Hi, where are we starting from?
כן, משהו כזה. I'm sorry? We started with the Alter Rebbe 27.
Yeah, where are we?
We're starting with the Alter
okay, got
Rebbe
it.
of Zion. Now, honestly, with all due respect to the translator of this work, I'm not convinced that this is the Pshat in the Alter Rebbe, because the Machaber says the same words, Noisnim Shumshamin ve'agoizim ledvash lo yechabtzim biyodov, and the Mishnah Berurah explains lo yechabtzim biyodov means you shouldn't squeeze out the honey from the nuts. They used to mix it in and then squeeze it out. Now let's squeeze it out. That fits in much better to Hilchos Borer. Yechabtzim biyodov, the way he's translating it to mean shape it. I mean, I'm sure there are Rishonim that say that Pshat, he didn't make it up, but in the context of Siman Shin Yud Tes, the Pshat that the Mishnah Berurah says seems to make more sense.
Okay.
Yes.
When it's squeezed, the honey, הוא לוקח את הטוב. אני רוצה את ההני רק לבד. אז אני מוציא את הטוב משם.
No, when you squeeze out the honey, you don't want the honey.
I want the honey, let's say.
You don't want the honey.
I want the honey.
You know, if you want the honey, it's a separate problem of mafarik. You not let us squeeze a liquid out of something else.
If two people, one want the honey and one want that, can we do that?
You cannot squeeze liquid out of something else. That's called mafarik. But here, even if you don't want the honey, you're not allowed to do it because you're separating it from where it's absorbed. Actually,
Well, you know, I looked at the note there on 117.
I can't make it
because it's like building, so
Speak
perhaps
louder,
it's.
Daniel, you're in the highest volume and we can barely hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
1 second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking at the note 117, and it says because of the Isser of building. So perhaps, you know, he is shaping it, because you do find candies which are shaped like, you know, things. So maybe there's two different shatim here.
There evidently is, because he certainly didn't make this up. But nevertheless, I think the pshat that the Mishnah Berurah says fits into this siman better. So.
You don't have to squeeze for immediately eating. You're eating right away.
So actually, when it comes to squeezing, we're going to see in Shin Chav that you are actually allowed to squeeze out. You're allowed to squeeze out kvashim b'shlakas. If you have vegetables that are cooked or pickled, so they have liquid that's absorbed in them, and it's too much, you want to squeeze it out before you eat it. You're allowed to, as long as it's right before you eat it. Why? Because when you no, it's because when you take out the stuff and it goes li'ibud, it gets lost. So it's not even. It doesn't even have a din of no. I'm talking about Siman Shinchaf, where he's discussing the question of Mefarik, but that's not the way, it's not the normal way of Mefarik to discard the thing that is coming out. So since the thing that's coming out is not being saved, it's being thrown out right away. So that's not the derech of Mefarik. That's not considered Mefarik. Yeah, straight away.
Squeezing into a bowl doesn't saving, or they have to squeeze into the sink?
I think mamish into the sink. I think so. I think you have to squeeze it mamish, so it goes leibud right away. But what about the fact that you're boyer? Why is that not boyer? I don't know if that's the reason. And here we see it is boyer. Why, when it comes to squeezing the honey out, is it boyer? When it comes to squeezing the juice out, it's not boyer.
Maybe the liquids from the vegetable is the same mean, it's part of the food himself, basically.
Maybe.
And these like two different things that combine together and I squeeze it.
I hear. I'm sure.
Like a liquid you're getting out of the vegetable, as you said before, you're throwing away. No one normally eats it. Whereas the honey is edible.
Oh, you think he saves the honey here? Is that what you think? Sorry? Yeah. A second. Let me see if it says anything.
Is yellow and yellow.
Shape them into a mass by hand. Maybe that's why the English here translates it differently. I don't know where he gets it from. Shapes into a mass by hand. Quotes it from the Rambam, Chof Aleph Yud Zayin. So let's look it up for a minute. Bear with me. Sorry for keeping you. V'chein Mchabet told us Boyer who, Lefikach Bishon Leisen Shmishim Lebezel Dvash Le'echabtzem B'yodoi. Causing milk to curdle to make cheese is derivative of the category of separating. Therefore, even though it is permitted to place sesame seeds and nuts into honey, one should not mix them into a block with one's hands. This is definitely a Boyer issue.
So maybe the one that they said about the Simsum is got like the same as Chavav, not like Tarek.
That's what he wants to say here. That's what he wants to say here. He wants to say that it's boina. That's what he says here. That's what he says here. Okay. Something that still has to be figured out. I'm not sure, because even so, the Mishnah Borer obviously doesn't say that. So, and Mishnah Borer holds that it is boyer. So why is it different than in Shinchaf, where you're allowed to squeeze out? You're not allowed to squeeze out, unless maybe it means dafka when you're not going to use it right away. Maybe it's considered boyer oichel.
So it can be two things.
Maybe it can be considered squeeze out the honey and you don't want it. Maybe it's boyer oichel because you're working with the shumshuman and the dvash. So it's boyer oichel. And when he says you're not allowed to do it, maybe he means not right before you eat it, but in advance. So then you can't be boyer oichel even in advance. That could be the pshat of the Mishnah Borer. I think that's what he's saying here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, that's what he's saying here.
But on Chavav,
You know what? One second. Let me just read the Mishnah Borer. I missed this one. Lefizem daite lecha la'alter shor lechavitz b'yodei. Shomea? Mashma mizeh de'isur mishum boyer lefizem daite im daite lecha la'alter shor lechavitz b'yodei. He says you're allowed to do it if you want to use it, if you want to eat it immediately. So that's what it is. If it's an isur of boyer, then you could do it if you want to eat it immediately. If it's an isur of boina, then it's usur, obviously, no matter what. So it depends what you're doing. If you're squeezing out the honey and that's it, then you can do it if you want to eat it right away. But if you're forming it into a shape, like a candy, people take nuts with honey and they shape it into a candy. That's a problem with boina.
so wait, so at the beginning you have to take the concept of boiling and then you have to squeeze it to take the honey out.
I don't know how they did it.
Or it's like
I don't know how they did it. I don't know what the order was. But as far as squeezing out the honey, you can't do it unless it's right before eating. As far as mashing it together and making a shape, that you can't do anyway.
Let me ask you, if you take from the chola, you take the meat, you take the potatoes, smash them together, make it like the whole one. You would consider it boiling. But now the whole like
After bless with that.
If you didn't have in mind, you have to. Lo shamati. Why are you pushing it together? For what purpose?
smashing it together. You want to give it to the kid, so you smash it together, make the whole one.
But it doesn't become connected.
Why
It
not?
doesn't stick together. If you pick it up, it's going to fall apart.
But the potato and the meat will be.
No, that's not called baina. Baina is if it's connected and it becomes one thing, like cheese. Cheese becomes one thing. Understand? You're making a candy out of it. There, you're just making a mush out of
Two
it.
examples are different. The cheese, it's everything from the milk itself. It's the same material. Over here, we're talking about three different things. Simsim, the goyim, and dvash.
I understand, but it's becoming one. If it's just a mush, that's not going to be.
So okay, top zayin can be more layers and can be boiling because it's from two different things that stuck together. So from the gvina, just on the milk, it changes shape basically.
Yeah. I hear you. You're saying Chav Zayin is connected to Chavav, where he talks about Baina. So it's also Baina. I hear you. All right, Chav Ches. Also, litin shmor b'mashke kadei lahamidoi. Af b'shur l'shtres b'Shabbos. V'nei shal gedei chen yorim gam shimon mashkan atzma l'shulekli. V'zel told us Borer k'mayam b'chabitz. It's forbidden to place yeast in a liquid so that it will ferment. Even though liquid is fit to drink on Shabbos, The rationale is that doing so will also cause the liquid's own dregs to descend to the bottom of the container. Thus, it's derivative of the forbidden labor of separating that causing milk to curdle. Right? We said before you can't cause milk to curdle, so it's the same thing here. You can't put yeast into drinks. I don't know why yeast makes drinks ferment, but apparently it does. Anybody know about that? Yeast? Yeast?
And we put malt in, but I don't know about yeast.
I don't know. Okay, Chavtes.
Oh, this is what yeast do.
Uh-huh.
Right. It's the alcohol, it'll help it ferment.
But will it separate the dregs from the... I don't know. Haroikik beruach, number 29. When one spits into the wind, Faruach mafazer haroik, and the
anything can cause the
anything that will cause the shmarim to separate. That's the issue. And one spits into the wind, and the wind scatters the spittle, he is liable for performing the forbidden labor of winnowing, zoira. According to opinions that say that Ein Melach Shesach Legufa is potter, Avkan potter, over here he's also potter. I will also do Yosef, but it's also Midarabanan. Excuse me, I feel in Miskam al-Kach, even if he has no intention. Elashu Psikresh V'lo Yamos, if it is a Psikresha of V'lo Yamos. Okay. I wanted to share with you.
So why is this brought here? This is not. How is this related to Borer?
1 second. Let me just answer Daniel's question. Daniel's asking, why is it brought here? Honestly, it's brought here because there's nowhere else to put it. Zoira is kind of not really enough to have its own Siman because it's not so practical. We don't really go to granaries and winnow on Shabbos, so it doesn't really get its own Siman. So we just kind of append it to the end of this Siman. Since in the order of the Sidura de Pas, in the order of making bread, Zoira would come after Borer. No, I think actually came before Borer. But whatever, it was around this, so they just appended here. Yes, Ronnie, yeah. Doesn't make a difference. If you're spitting into the wind, and the wind is going to break it up into little pieces, regardless of cement or makes no difference. Makes no difference where it's going to land. The fact that the wind is breaking it up into many pieces is considered Zoira according to the Alter Rebbe, quoting the Ramah, quoting whoever he's quoting, Tosefta maybe.
It will be the same thing.
Maharil B'Shem Arzur of Yerushalmi, sorry.
Even if it's not about split, if you take a cup of water and destroy the wind, and the wind spread it.
Correct.
Same concept?
Same concept. You can't throw water into the wind if the wind is going to separate the water into droplets.
What if it's a Sunday?
So, Suffolk, I don't know. Let me just read the Mishnah Berurah here, because he brings up Shuvas Rabbi Akiva Eiger in the Bir Halacha, who questions if you're pouring a small amount of water from a bottle by a window, and the wind is spreading it out into separate drops, if it's Zohar or not. He says that since the other poskim, besides this Ramah, who's obviously a big posik, no, the Bir Halacha, Bir Halacha. He says that the other poskim, besides the Ramah, leave out this Yerushalmi, and therefore they evidently don't hold of it. Why? Very simple. What is Zoira? Zoira is where you use the wind to separate the psolas from the oichel. They would throw up the mixture of chaff and grain, right? And the wind would blow away the chaff, and the grain would fall down. But if it's all good, or all bad for that matter, I mean, what's spit? It's total psolas. What's water? Maybe it's oichel. I don't know if you need it or not. I don't know. But you're not separating anything. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger says maybe it's not even the malacha of Zoyer. It's one thing to say it's the malacha, but it's saying lagufa. It's not the malacha because you're not separating anything. Yes.
So if someone spit in the air and it's spray, we study, we don't allow it. It's like
The Ramah says it's not allowed, but Rabbi Akiva Eiger questions that.
question.
Yeah.
Because I remember last Shabbat I was working with one of the guys in his spit, and I said I just learned halacha. It's like you are
Only if the wind separates it. If it's not windy
windy.
and the wind
He
separates
says,
it.
"Sorry, I didn't know the halacha." So I said, "Okay, now
Okay.
you know."
Okay. Okay.
So you allowed to do that? I mean, by b'diavad,
Sephardi or Ashkenazi?
Sephardi.
I'm pretty sure the Yalkut Yosef says that since the Machaber doesn't bring down this Yerushalmi, it's a proof that he doesn't hold of it, Lamaisa, like Rabbi Akiva Eiger, that it's not Zohar, because it's not separating anything.
You can tell that.
And for Ashkenaz, you don't allow.
Ashkenazim better to be strict. The truth is that the Rabbi Akiva Eiger says you don't have to be strict. But the Mishnah Borer says better to be strict at least with spit, even if you're not strict with water. What's the difference? Because we find some malachas only apply to gedule karka, to things that grow from the ground. So obviously grain grows from the ground. Animals and people also grow from the ground because we eat things that grow from the ground. Water does not grow from the ground. Water is just water. So therefore, perhaps Rabbi Akiva Eiger, who's mekel, only is mekel by water. Mishnah Borer says no. Rabbi Akiva Eiger is metzadet lahakel about the water, but Mishnah Borer says maybe b'chol zot you would agree with the Ramah that you shouldn't spit into the wind because that's gedule karka.
Last time he called me, it was 9 o'clock. I texted him, I'm studying. He was jealous. He was going to open the Gemara. They study 1 hour too. He told me that the next day.
Should come here. And Yantif?
It's good. It's good.
Generally, the malachas of Choresh until Lush apply on Shabbos and Yantif the same.
Who's the Lahomrim from the Lachash? Who's the Lahomrim?
Most Rishonim hold that. The Rambam holds Malachash Sechel Gufas Chayev. Most other Rishonim, the Rif and others, I don't remember all of the names, hold that Malachash Sechel Gufas Pater. He brought them down in Shin Tezayin. We spoke about killing animals that are not dangerous, but they could cause harm. So there the author brought down the opinions.
If you walk in the rain, the storm, you shouldn't shake the raincoat.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if it's soaking, you shouldn't shake it anyway because you're going to be squeezing it. That's what we said in Shin Beis. Soaking. If it's plastic and it's not really absorbing, maybe. Depends on Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says it's no problem. So, Alter Rebbe does bring down this Yerushalmi, but maybe it's only by spit. Mishnah Borer says not by water. The spit is gedule karka. So it's a question. It's not so clear. But based on this halacha, also they say that you shouldn't empty your tablecloth. Even if there's an eruv, you shouldn't shake out your tablecloth into the wind. So that the wind will separate the crumbs, exactly. Daniel, what were you going to say?
Nothing. I hit the wrong button.
Okay. You're on my highest volume, but we're barely hearing you still. Okay. Yes.
What's the source for the spitting?
Yerushalmi.
Yerushalmi says you're not allowed to spit.
Correct.
Oh.
Yerushalmi.
So what's the side of Meaning, why wouldn't that be brought down? Because
So that's what it is, because many poskim don't bring down this Yerushalmi, so they understand that the Bavli disagrees with the Yerushalmi and defines Zohar as only when you're using the wind to separate Eichel from Psoilus, not just separate Stam.
Right, so even if the Bavli didn't explicitly say something to show that we disagree with them, only to have a riot from the Bavli.
Actually, that's a question. Usually we say, if the Yerushalmi says something and the Bavli doesn't say different, we go like the Yerushalmi. So here they're saying, since the poskim didn't bring it down, they probably hold that the Bavli disagrees. How do they know? I don't know. Not sure.
Without the Yerushalmi, you would think that it did not go into the category of Zohar because my thought process, for example, Borer. So if I'm going to say I'm allowed to take, so I know that Borer is not allowed. So Borer, Ochel is also not allowed. Over here, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything. A malacha is taking something like there was explaining good from bad.
Well, it depends how you define Zohar. That's the thing. If Zohar means separating by wind, then it's Zohar. If it means separating good from bad by wind, then it's not Zohar. I mean, we don't really know exactly what Zohar means. That's why it's a question.
Wasn't that what they did?
Yes.
That is what it is.
That's okay, but is the essence of it the separation, or is it the essence of it the separating from good and bad? No, but that's what he's saying. Is it there's the malacha and there's what's accomplished with the malacha. If you say the malacha is a separating and the accomplishment is good from bad, so then maybe it's a malacha or lagufa. You don't need the accomplishment, but you still have the separating. But if the essence of it is separating good from bad, then you don't have the malacha either. So that's the question. But I don't know what in the Bavli would really indicate one way or the other. So I don't know. No problem. Okay. He does bring down another pshat in the Yerushalmi, which is obviously not the way the Ramah, not the Rebbe are learning, but nevertheless, it's another pshat. He says that maybe it's not even talking about the malacha of Zohar. It's talking about a person who spits into the wind, and the wind carries it for Amos. That according to the Yerushalmi, he's chayev. That just like we see that you're chayev for Zohar, even though the wind helped you, so too you could be chayev for carrying, even though the wind helps you. So it's a totally different application of wind. Sorry? No way. No Eruv.
That's a Torah.
No Eruv, exactly.
In this particular point, if we have a rule, so it's no for a man.
Correct. Okay, my friends. We are going to do some miscellaneous Borer halachos. And I must say that this is an incomplete endeavor. My plan was that before this class, I would review Shmiras Shabbos, Yalkut Yosef, Shabbos Kehlichaso, and the 39 Malachos. And I would give you a synopsis of all the Achronim, basically. However, that didn't happen. So we're going to do what we can today and hopefully finish it up tomorrow. Some of these points I may have already made, so forgive me if we're repeating it. And not all of them are, necessarily agreed upon by all the Rishonim, by all the Achronim. If there's anything that I know of that is not agreed with, I'll let you know. And if not, we'll have to get to it tomorrow. Okay, first, number one, we mentioned this last week, I think, that this sort of Borer applies even if one does not remove all of the psoilus. I mean, that seems obvious, but should be pointed out.
Even a kol shu?
Are you chayiv in a kol shu? I don't know, but it's definitely it's chatzi shir for sure. I'm not sure.
It's not like a zayis or something.
Usually the shiurim for achila, the food is a groigris. Usually.
How much is a groigris? Don't say a date.
How much a groigris is How much is a Gregors? I'm pretty sure it's slightly bigger than a kibetza. Pretty sure. No. Sorry, bigger than a kazai, smaller than a kibetza. We have it in Hilchos Yom Kippur. Bigger than a kazai, smaller than a kibetza.
It's a date.
Yeah, dry date.
Do you know how much that is? Like it's a week.
Yeah, it's in between. It must be in Hilchos Yom Kippur. They must have a definition of it because that's the shear of achila.
The price is about 6 grams, but I said about 30 grams is somewhere.
Yeah.
So anything that in between we consider.
Sorry?
Anything that in between.
I don't remember. Okay, so how to remove fish or chicken bones? We already discussed this, but the Shmiras Shabbos gives a synopsis of it, so I'll just tell you what he says. Now, option number 1 is put the piece in your mouth and then take the bones out. That's for sure allowed. Even though you're taking out the bones, but you're doing it as you're eating, that's okay. Another option, which is equally as good, is to hold onto the bone, either with your hand or with a fork, and remove the fish or the chicken from the bone with your other hand or another fork. That's also allowed. You're taking the good from the bad.
Now, if you remove it and so little bit stay and the bone, you're allowed to eat that?
Bakasha, lamalo.
So what's the point to remove that?
The point is that you're taking the good and leaving the bad.
So you can take a bite too also?
Of course, if you want. If you want, you can. But the point is that
They say hold the bone one hand and pull immediately. So you end up having your salad in your hands also.
okay, but the action is on the oichel. Another option, the Mishnah Berurah brought this also, is to take off the bone and suck off the liquid or the meat from the bone.
You allowed to do that?
Yep. And last but not least, this is what some people say, but you can rely on it if necessary, is to take out the bones stem, even though you're not sucking off any liquid, and even though it's
I do like the liquid sometimes.
okay. If you like it and you do it, is even better. But even if you don't, the svara is that it could be considered derech achila, because it's very hard to eat without taking them out. Perhaps that could be considered the way of eating. So that is a makam lahakal. That's not the best option, but there is makam lahakal. I think I'm pretty sure the Mishnah Berurah brings that also. That's one of the svaras, yeah. The bir halacha. Okay, he does bring about, by the way, that this is the whole source for the Ashkenazi food called gefilte fish. It all started with this concept to not have bones in the fish. But he does bring another important point. The numbers, by the way, here are the numbers in the Shmiras Shabbos. But anyway, he does bring an important point, and that is that if you have it on the plate already, then you can't take the bones out. In other words, if you already separated it out on the plate, and you want to eat, the meat and leave the bones, at that point you already can't take the bones out of the way. The whole thing of saying that it's derech achila is only when the bones are stuck inside. So the only way you can eat really is to take out the bones. But if they're just lying there on the plate, they're not connected anymore, then for sure taking out the bones is going to be better.
But basically, when I bring my plate, the bone and the chicken is in my plate. So
I'm talking about if you already cut it apart, and there's a bone here and there's a meat here, then you can only take the meat.
In my plate?
If it's already cut, it's already cut.
What do you mean already cut?
If you already cut the meat and it's separated from the bones, and they're both lying next to each other on the plate.
I have a chicken right in the middle, big one. So I cut a piece, bring it to my plate.
And now you cut it up into little pieces, like you feed your baby.
I like
cut.
I like to do that.
So then, vakasha,
No problem, is it?
enjoy. No problem at all. Yes.
Is there a lesser problem of taking the bones from the meat in this way and taking and putting it on your plate and taking it out of your plate?
I'm not sure what you mean one more time.
What I said?
Yeah, well, what do you mean?
If I have a plate of bones, chicken with bones.
Yeah.
I put it on my plate, or if I take it out of my plate?
What's the difference? I don't see the difference.
There's no svara of if you keep it in your plate, it's better, or if you had it in your plate, it's not.
Put it on the
It's not
side,
considered
like
really
this,
separating.
No,
Okay.
never saw that.
So out of your plate is the same as anywhere else. In the garbage is also the same thing.
Yeah.
Remove it from your plate once you put it down.
You mean is it muktzah? Is that your question? If it could be eaten by animals, it's not muktzah. By normal animals found.
Chicken bones, especially fish bones. They do it. It's dangerous. So
Right. If
I
it's
had a
not
question.
for animals, then you should consider it muktzah. You can move it if it bothers you. You know, and you shouldn't just move its down.
What if it bothers you?
You mean
What are we saying is muktzah?
eating is that what you mean?
What?
You mean it's only bothering you because you're eating? If you wouldn't be eating, it wouldn't bother you? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Let's say a woman's preparing. This is my head. I guess a woman's preparing, and she separated everything. Now wants to bring this plate with this chicken she just separated to the table. Is she allowed to take that pile of bones and put it in the garbage because doesn't look good with the meal, with the dish?
It's already separated, you say?
She put it on the platter, what she wants. She's going to serve it like this. Now she starts cutting up pieces, and now you have, let's say, a meat, let's say a steak with a bone inside. So you have bones and cut up nice pieces of meat, and now you have bones and meat. You don't want to put on the.
Well, if they're mixed, you can't separate it because of boyer, right?
Right.
But if it's
That's
separated,
what we're talking about. I'm saying.
I thought
We're saying we're not allowed to. If I have bones.
the fact that you don't like it does not excuse you to do something called boyer. It's only about muktzah that it would allow. The fact that you don't like it, that's classic boyer. That's not an excuse.
So Rabbi, to make it easy, if I have like the chicken when we're cutting, so how can you take the chicken to eat if you have the bone on a plate? So it will be always borer over there.
No, you take the chicken to eat. What's the problem? No
You
boyer.
leave the garbage over there. You take the
If you can, for sure. Yes.
What's reading the book border? Like if you have two plates right here.
Yep.
You have your chicken bones right here.
Yeah.
Take all the meat over here, leave the bones here. Take this.
If you can take the meat away from the bones, that's the best.
So you leave the bones right here on the table.
That's the best. If you could take the bones, if you could take the meat from the bones, that's the best.
It's already separate on your plate, the bones.
Leave the meat
Yeah.
on the plate.
What's the big difference?
Take the good from the bad.
From the back.
If they're already separated. If they're already separated.
This was the whole request. If you're allowed to.
That's what I was referring to.
So you
they're in
can't pull
separate
the
piles?
meat off the bone. Can
They're already in
you?
separate piles.
Right away.
Separated the good while you were doing it. And it's disgusting to you, yeah. As far as muktzah, I thought you meant as far as boyer. As far as muktzah is concerned, if there's a pile of bones that you find disgusting, it's not nice.
Just if they're one amongst the other, then it would not be allowed.
Exactly. If it's mixed,
Cut up.
then it's a boyer issue. Then the fact that it disgusts you doesn't make an excuse.
But it can become from a borer issue to a muktzah issue.
Exactly. Daniel, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I changed phones here. I hope does it sound better?
Better, yeah.
Okay.
Still not as loud, but clear, more clear.
Yeah. So the first question I had, it said it's removed right before eating, preferably with some meat. So does that mean, is that talking about that you can actually pull the bone out and then eat the meat right away? Is that what that's saying?
Remove right before eating is to actually pull the bone out, correct. And it's only preferably with some meat. Even if no meat comes off, there is room to be lenient because it's considered perhaps part of eating.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's like a
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really
I
a
mean,
new
if you
thing.
can do the other ways are better. But there is this option also.
Okay. And the other question I had, it goes back on the first item we had. The Isser Borer applies even if one doesn't remove all the pasolas. So does that
Yes.
mean that that's going back on this thing, but it doesn't have to do with like separating. Well, I was thinking of nuts and some sort of unwanted thing with the nuts. This is more like talking about pulling the meat off the bone.
No, it's a general thing. Number one is a general thing. Whenever you're separating in a way of boyer, it's an avera, even if you just take some of the bad from the good, even if you leave plenty of bad behind.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, how to eat watermelon in order of preference. Once again, similar to the chicken bones.
Put the seed in your mouth.
Piece in mouth and then spit out the seeds. Bavakasha. Best. Second best, which
What about there's always like part of the melon on the peel, so always completely solid.
You're also taking.
so
You can't be-
I'm not talking about the peel now. I'm talking about the pits. Most of them are seedless, yeah. But the truth is that with the peel, so if you do it right before eating, it's no problem anyway, because you're allowed to separate peels right before you eat. As far as the small amount of melon that you cut off when you peel it, I mean, you don't peel a melon, but what I'm saying, when you cut it off. So there is a svara to say, I think it's just a Shulchan says it, that small amount is not going to help you. Because it's such a small amount that's the. I understand, but if that's the way, sorry. His question is, normally, we're going to discuss it more later. Normally, when you peel off a peel that's not edible, right? Peel off a peel that's not edible, you can only do it right before eating, because that's the way of eating. But if you do it in advance, that's called boyer. You're taking off the bad, right? The question is,
Are you
taking off the bad?
taking off the good?
No, I'm talking about a peel, a non-edible peel. You're removing the peel.
Well, usually you don't remove the peel. Usually you remove fruit.
It depends what. An egg.
No, some people take that.
A banana. Talk about a banana.
They're taking it off.
Talk about a banana.
Right.
Peeling off the banana.
Right.
By watermelon, you're just cutting it up. You're separating it. But talk about a banana. Opening up a banana, right? You're taking off the bad from the good. That's only mutter because it's derech achila. That's the only way you can eat a banana, so it's considered derech achila. But it has to be immediate. Derech achila is only if it's immediate use. If you do it in advance, it's a problem. So the question is, what if you're going to take off some of the good? I mean, the banana, you can't really take some of the good off. It is what it is. But I'm saying, if there's an inedible peel, which you could take with some of the good, so the Shulchan says, if when you peel it, it always comes with some good, that good is not considered, that can't help you, because that's considered part of the psoilus, basically, exactly.
Rabbi, for the mother for Katan, she's allowed to do it while she's working in the synagogue? I mean, like, and after when she's going outside?
No.
Right. So when she's working, she has to peel it?
Before she feeds him, not in advance.
She knows he's going to want, while working, a piece of banana.
While she's working, fine.
So, but she cannot do it at house and working, because she's working with the soil or with the banana. I mean, you see what my point?
Is she allowed to do it before she leaves for work? I don't know what you mean.
For the kids, if she wants banana, and while he's working from the house on Shabbat. So before she's going outside, instead to do it in the street, with the stroller.
Yeah, but if they're going to eat it immediately while they're walking, isn't that fine? That's their chakila.
So within an hour.
If the katan is holding in the hand, is no problem. But if, let's say, he doesn't want to hold it right now, and he want it on the street only, let's say.
We had that question in the past. If you need to do it now because you're leaving the house now, but you're not actually going to eat it now. We had that question, right? If you're sorting for the kids, they're going to shul, they're not going to eat it until later on. But maybe we have different opinions. Some say that's considered right before, because now is the last time you can do it. Some say no, you have to actually eat it right away.
So if you take a small bite, it's like a now, and you keep it to the rest after. It's okay.
I don't know. I think it's still machloket.
Still machloket?
I don't think so. I think it's Myra.
Well, the mother, she
think
will
it's
take a
Myra.
bite.
I mean, according to the Matirim, Lakasha, but according to the Oisrim, if that's not your real intention, if you're just taking a bite to be able to say that you're, I don't think
What
so.
if you're taking?
I think it's
if you're
Myra.
making
Really
yourself a
bite.
normal amount, a
So
small
really
amount.
bite.
Not a bite, but a small amount. You do it. You know your intention is to be able to later, but I'm also
But then
going to
that's the
have a little
problem.
bit of a net.
I don't
So
think so.
the part you're gonna have now, you're okay with.
Exactly. The part you can have now, you go. We said this actually
Maybe we
clearly.
do too much.
We said this actually clearly. It wasn't in the Mishnah, it was in the Dirshu. The Dirshu said you can't be Mayim with Boyer. You can't say, I'm having Shachris, my morning meal. I know I'm going to have a Shal Shudas. I'll do a bit of extra, which you're allowed to do on Yontif, by the way. On Yontif, you're allowed to do even for the second day if you do it early. But here you can't. So I think it's the same.
Isn't it similar, with the child, as the example we had where somebody comes to you and you're going to give them something, but they're not eat it right away?
Yeah, same thing. Same thing. We discussed it, yeah. Same thing, yeah. Okay, another thing.
You can't prepare everything at the last minute. You have to keep working.
Why not? We do it in my house all the time.
Backwards and backwards and backwards. You want to have something at
Right before the meal.
You can't start right at a quarter to 4.
Well, we said according to
You're
some
peeling
poskim,
bananas and
according to most
water.
poskim, you can start the amount of time before that will take you to prepare it. Not everybody agreed with that. Chazon Ish said no, it has to be mamish before. But I think he says a half hour. I saw, somebody else says an hour. That I didn't see. But I saw the Chazon Ish says a half hour, and I saw somebody says an hour. Maybe you showed me. Somebody says an hour. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
In the case what you just mentioned, if we're on an opinion that says you have to do as much time as you need before.
Yeah.
So if the actual process, let's say for example, I'm cutting tomatoes and peeling, I'm peeling cucumbers, I'm peeling bananas. So if that only is going to take me 7 minutes, but I'm starting to prepare for the whole meal, which is 5 other things, so I can't do that first, and then other things in between before my meals, before when I actually eat it. I would need to start that process only right before the meal, however long it'll take me to do.
You think that's a pshat?
Why would I be?
I don't think it's a pshat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you saying the pshat is, just so I can make sure I'm...
I think the pshat is that you're doing it the last possible time that you can to make it ready for eating at the time that you're going to eat it. I'm saying this is the last possible time you can do it.
Why?
Because you have to make something else also, which you also want to eat.
Why would I make that something else before the other?
Because then you have the same question on the other thing.
It's the opposite.
You have to start.
You want to start eating at 1.
No, I was saying whatever takes more. Yeah. I was gonna say whatever takes more time would have to be.
What's the difference? More or less. The fact is, in order for you to eat at 1, you're making 5 dishes. Each of them takes 10 minutes. You need to start 50 minutes before. So you'll say, well, this one, to be able to eat it at this time, or these foods at this time, I have to start now. I think it's the same sort.
Rabbi, to satisfy my question,
If
in the morning,
Yeah.
before we go to synagogue, the kids want a breakfast, right?
Yeah.
So you can put all bananas and everything, peel everything on a table, and whatever they eat, if they're not, they can pack it and go to synagogue with that, right?
I know
There's another way.
Someone else. Someone was gonna-
1 second. If they might eat it, then yeah. If they might actually eat it,
I
yeah.
put it on a table for them, they may eat it, right?
If it's a trick, no. But if they actually might eat it, yes.
What if it's just
Okay, Sean.
Use more people for preparation.
Cover the
Finish it just
bigger
before.
bowl.
Sorry?
I know a few of someone else said their opinion that bring more people, use more people for preparation. To be
Probably
able
so.
to finish it. I don't know
Yeah.
what we'll say.
Yeah.
We'll say this. On behalf of-
Somebody. All right, son?
What it says, just bring more people to help them. You don't have more time. Because you have maximum 30 minutes before the Suda.
So a woman couldn't get up early, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and prepare, and then take a nap, and then get up and daven and do all.
No. A nap for sure not. Nobody says a nap. A nap for sure not. Maybe she could get up early and prepare as right in advance and finish in such a way that it starts right before the meal.
So the real starting point of it is when you're going
When you start the meal.
When you're going to start the meal,
Yeah.
you work backwards from that.
Yeah, if she's doing boyer. If she's doing other things, obviously she can set the table without boyer or whatever. All right, option number
Sometimes take a
2.
long time to set up.
Yes,
You see, like in shuls, they set up kiddush and things. It takes
yes,
a couple hours.
yes.
If it takes a couple hours, Rob's saying it's fine.
Oh,
You can do
that's right.
preparation and then go to shul.
According to Rav
You
Zalman.
just can't do
And,
something in between.
You
sorry?
do preparation and then go to shul, so he's going to get ready when you're coming.
No, sure not. Nobody says that.
That's not.
Yeah, but what about that thing that's the last possible time to do it? If you're not there to do it, then
Who asked you to go to shul?
who asked you?
Rabbi,
I'm sorry.
Who asked you to go to shul? I like that answer.
You want to go to shul, go to shul. You want to prepare the meal, prepare the meal. But why are you mixing them together?
Parshas Zafir.
but so for the synagogue,
Parshas
Zafir.
Okay, let's go to Parshas Zafir. B'kasha. Enjoy it.
in the synagogue,
Yisker.
when you finish
Yisker, Yisker.
when you finish praying for the kiddush on Shabbat, the goy can prepare that, right? And when you finish, you come right away.
What does the guy have to do with anything? I'm not someone you're asking.
Who is going to prepare the table for you? The Jew? No, the Jew praying and finish the
I don't
kiddush.
have a guy in my house, and we prepare the table just fine. I don't understand your question.
No, if you do kiddush in Shabbat and synagogue,
Chanali de goy. Oh, it's not a Chani.
I don't know your question.
It doesn't take that long to set up kiddush. We do it all the time at our shul, and it's like in
I'm sorry, one more time.
we can do it in 15 minutes for our shul, 15 or 20
I'm
minutes. If
trying
you
to
have, like,
hear Daniel. I can barely hear him. One more time, please. Shh. Go ahead. Daniel, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying in our shul, like we have like 100 people and at the kiddush, but we get it ready like in 15 or 20 minutes. It's no, it's nothing.
Okay, nice.
It's like this is like a sit down meal.
Nice.
One question before next.
Yes.
Ali de goy, are we allowed to do this?
Do what?
Tell a goy to start chopping vegetables and separating. Doing borer in a permitted way.
What do you mean a permitted way? That's bad before eating.
Right about Ali de goy. No.
If it's in the morning,
No.
birds and Issa D'Oraisa. So to have a guy do it in a way that's not allowed for you is not allowed. It's not hachana. That's Issa D'Oraisa.
If you rely on the, let's say already said, or the book that I read, or Allah said you have to do it. Let's say it takes me 7 minutes to go home from shul. So according to that opinion, he said you have 7 minutes to start for my wife to start cooking with that. So can she rely on the goy? I'm asking. The goy can for sure rely on the most makel opinion.
Yeah. If you have an opinion that's mattered for a Jew, then you can have a guy rely. You can rely on a guy. Rely on that opinion to have a guy do it. Yes.
Tell a guy to do something. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it in a way that not do borer.
There's no way. If you're not eating right away, there's no way.
You tell the guy to do the same halacha. He doesn't know about borer. He's just doing it because it's easy for him.
What did you tell him to do?
This way.
The mashal. Tell me what you told him to do.
What I'm going to do? What melachal borer is that we're not allowed to do?
Separate these peas from the carrots. I need the carrots from this dish. Oh no! And take away the peas. You're not allowed to do that.
Or you just put the carrot on one plate and the peas on one plate.
Put it this way.
And what you know is mixed.
If it's right before eating, and there's a question, and you can only do the good from the bad, and he chooses to do the bad from the good, that's no problem. But if it's in the morning, in such a time that there's no way you could do it, you know what I'm saying? So then what's that?
Well,
There has to be a permissible way for you to do it right now.
I can do it, but I'm choosing to go davening right now.
Well, so that means you can't do it.
I could if I want to, but
But
this
you
why I
don't
have
want to
go.
eat.
This is why I'm paying for a guy.
Right now, you don't want to eat. So right now, there's no permissible way for you to do it. The fact that you could want to eat, but you don't. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
not a good. The issue is that when we finish davening for the kiddush, it's going to be ready. He can do it now. I can do it
Okay,
later.
maybe. That I hear. If you don't tell him when to do it, and he chooses to do it before, that I hear. That I hear.
Like you open up the can of tuna and drain it out. Or he can open up the can of peas and drain out the liquid.
Open up the cans. Open up the cans. Open up the cans.
I think we linked into Amirad and Noche, so maybe continue with Sif Gimel. And I'm going to finish your paper.
That's for sure.
I mean, in general, we said what a go. If a Jew allows it, if some place can allow it for a Jew, then you could be making through a guy. So that's the general answer. If it's something that it could be allowed for a Jew, according to some place, then you can allow it for a guy.
You have
Yes.
said that if a Jew needs to do good from bad, so the goy can do bad from good.
You can't tell him if he chooses to,
Right? Why?
because he's choosing to do it in whatever way he wants. You didn't tell him.
I have a permitted way. He doesn't forbidden. I mean, there is a permitted way to do it, but he's doing the easiest way for him.
Exactly, like when he washes the dishes with hot water.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do hot water, but if he chooses,
If he chooses to, exactly. All right, my friends, shaking out seeds using the watermelon right before eating. What's the heter? Explain it to me.
Shaking?
Take the watermelon and shake off the seeds, holding. Oh, exactly. Because you're using the good.
Never mind.
Probably not. That's a nice idea anyway.
You're
Okay.
You're allowed to do that.
You're allowed to do it.
You don't.
Some allow to remove directly right before eating. Mamish biyadayim. The same ones that say you can remove the fish right before eating, the fish bones.
It's funny because I
Derech
think
achila.
is not allowed the watermelon seeds.
But he does allow the fish?
Yeah,
What's the difference?
I don't remember. That's why I asked.
Reb Shlomo Zalman says the same svar. Whoever allows that allows this. That's for sure allowed. But I'm saying those that allow the fish, which not everybody does, those that do would allow this also. Okay, continuing the Shmiras Shabbos, when eating a peach or a plum, so some allowed to remove the pit if there's some flesh of the fruit attached to it. That's number one. If there isn't, better to remove the fruit from the pit. Similar amount removal of the pit right before eating. So let's say you cut it open, and the pit of the plum is sitting right there. It's not attached. If it's attached, so even if you pull it out, some of the thing is going to come with it, so you're not really separating. But if it's not attached, so some allow you to take the actual pit, because they say it's derech achila. Just like when the cantaloupe, we're going to see later, you can scoop out the seeds, because derech achila. So they say the same thing here. Others say, no, you should take the good away from the bad.
Let me ask you, can you squeeze a little bit the peach to let the peach fall?
Also good, yeah. Also good. Same thing as we said
But
before.
you don't consider as squeezing the fruit.
No. No, that's not problem.
So you said if I eat a cantaloupe, it's okay to derech achila is to remove all the seeds.
Exactly, but you have to do right before you're eating. So it should be derech achila. That's correct. You can remove the cantaloupe seeds from the middle of the cantaloupe because that's considered derech achila.
Okay, but
I think
that's
that
not
would-
the same as
Shmiras Shabbos. The Shmiras Shabbos.
but-
Get back
but
to me
compare-
tonight. Hopefully we'll find other opinions.
But how does that relate to the heter of like pulling the bone out of a piece of meat, like a chicken bone out of a piece of meat right before you eat it? Is that the same thing? Because it seems like that's more something you want to be careful about than removing these cantaloupe seeds.
You mean, does everybody agree to the cantaloupe seeds? Or is it a machlokes? Is that what you mean to ask?
Yeah, because it's a machlokas about pulling the bone out right before you eat. So, but is this the same machlokas?
Right. By the bones, it's a machlokes. You're asking if it's a machlokes over here. I don't know. because I can't say I looked up all the Achronim, but I will say that Reb Shlomo Zalman in the Shmiras Shabbos questions this psak. The thing about the cantaloupe seeds. He paskins it. Yeah, he paskins it, but he wonders, why is it mutter? Because when it comes to some things, we understand that it's derech achila because there's no other way to eat otherwise. You can't eat a banana or an orange if you don't peel it. The same thing with an egg. So, I'm sorry?
Unless it's done in advance.
I'm saying, but the fact is that's definitely the way to eat.
No, I'm talking about.
You could do it in advance, but I'm saying because that's the only way to eat in general, it's not considered an act of birth, it's considered an act of eating. But here, you don't have to take out the seeds. I'm saying you could cut a slice without taking out the seeds, and you can eat fine. It's going to be a bit messy, but it's not technically necessary to remove the seeds to be able to eat. So he questions, but that is his psak.
Yeah, I like the idea that you said that it's the only way to eat it. Like the way to eat the banana or eat the egg, it's the only way you can eat it. Where with the bone, the chicken on the bone, you don't have to eat it. You don't have to pull out the bone. You can still eat around it. It's just a preference.
Yeah, I hear all these arguments. I want to leave this discussion for tomorrow night because I don't feel I addressed all the opinions. Yes. Yep. I see. So that's why he says it's not boyer.
Yeah.
So according to that, you could do it. So according to that, you could do it even in advance. If you say it's not even mixed in, you could do it even in advance. That's the difference. If you say it's considered mixed, but it's derech achila, you have to do it right before you eat. But if it's not even mixed, you could do it in the morning. In theory, that's enough. For the limon? For the melon, that's what we say.
But in our time, also seeds. People live edible. People take them, dry them, and they're not edible right now, but
right now is right now. We're talking about now.
He says like agasim, tapuchim, melafafon, milon, mango, lo shayach behem din borer klal.
You didn't say cantaloupe. Oh, melon? You said melon?
No.
Melon or mango?
Malafafon, they're completely edible, so that's not even a question. Malafafon, they're completely edible. You're cutting out a piece. Mango's not. No.
It's watermelon. There's one melon.
Yeah.
What is that fruit you're talking about?
So that's another reason. You're mixing in different reasons, different things that have different reasons for them. You see what I'm saying? The melon is, the cucumber is totally edible. The mango, he's saying, is not boyer because it's impossible to remove the fruit without the pit, without some of the fruit. So that's different than the melon, which is maybe because it's separated. There's different reasons that are mixed in there. I'm just saying, but we have to understand that it's different reasons. What do you say? Okay.
Number we on?
We are in number 7. I already discussed this actually when we learned this in the Dirshu. But if you have water on top of the leben, like you have leben, like that kind of yogurt thing, and there's some water collected on the top. We had 3 opinions of the Dirshu. So basically, some say you can only pour it off if you pour off some of the actual leben with it. Some say that you can pour it off because it's considered separate. It's not considered part of the leben. And some say just the opposite, that it's so much part of the leben that there's no isser of separating because it's all the same food.
But even if you pour it, you get left with the good. So what?
That's another heter. I hear that other heter. I hear that. Okay, number 8. One may not wash visible dirt. Okay, this is an interesting chiddush. Listen carefully. We discussed washing fruits. We said not to do it in a bowl, but that perhaps you could do it in the sink directly because you're holding onto the good. In the Shmiras Shabbos, he's not so happy about that heter. if the dirt is mixed with the fruit. Mixed with the fruit, he says you can't even hold it under the stream of water. If, however, he says, if the dirt is stuck to the fruit, then you are allowed to, because then it's considered derech achila. Then it's like peeling. You're allowed to peel right before eating. So if the dirt is literally stuck to the fruit, how do you get dirt off of fruit? You wash it off.
Get dirt off of fruit that's not stuck.
You can take the good from the bad. If it's not stuck, you can take the, and it's much easier to do it with water because you just wash it all off. See what I'm saying? But you could just take the good. You have a bowl of fruit with dirt. So if you just run it under the sink, all the dirt's gone. You could take every piece out and leave the dirt.
Well, you got an apple.
What if
You have an apple, Rabbi.
Sorry?
What if your apple's dirty?
If it's stuck to it, then you can.
Not stuck. What do you mean stuck?
If the dirt
Oh,
is
yeah.
actually attached to the apple,
What does it mean
attached that if you lift it up,
Still gonna
it
be
stays on the apple.
Oh, yeah.
Then you can wash it off.
So what's the other case?
He's talking about if it's mixed in. It's like you brought it from the field and it's mixed in with.
And if you take it out, it'll be clean.
Exactly.
Oh,
How can it be clean if you don't wash it, Rabbi? For 50,000 hands did touch that.
No, the hands that touch it is not even visible. That we said is not a problem to wash because
No,
that's not
but it's still with the
visible.
dust on it.
Rabbi, can he
So
wash
I
it
will
off?
not eat it if I will not wash it.
Can he wash it off and if see that there's a piece stuck, then take it off?
You don't have to. If it's stuck, you can wash it better. You could take it off for sure. You could take it off with your hands too. You don't have to use water.
I know publics, they wash the fruit. This is no problem.
But the fruit is dusty. We wash it off to remove all that. And then you see some dirt there that's stuck to it, so then you remove.
If it's right before eating, you can remove that dirt.
And wash it too, Rabbi?
You can wash it. You can anything that's stuck to it, you can wash, or you can remove by hand. You can rub.
When we say stuck, it's meaning it touch it.
Mud, you don't-
It touch it. Like I'm picking up this one here. Is it dust in it? I don't know if it's called touch it or it's there. I don't know, Rabbi. I mean, like
Remember, if you have mud on the food, you can't just start to move it by hand. You can follow it.
you must have water to sterilate that, right?
Mud.
Today the kids they will not touch it if it's not really shiny. Right.
Sometimes water pressure is not enough to really take it out to your hand.
He said okay, but if it's
Yeah. He includes dust in something you're allowed to wash off, even though dust is
Immediate
not.
use?
Even though it's not technically stuck, dust is just dust. But he considers that also derech achila.
Yeah.
When he says it's also, he's talking about if it's mixed in. Mixed in.
No matter how you wash it off? No matter how you remove it?
You mean soaking it or under a stream?
Yeah. Or wiping it off?
No, that he says is mutter either way. Whether you wash it with water or you wipe it off, whether by hand or by a cloth, either way is mutter. As far as whether in a stream or a bowl, other poskim say only under a stream of water, not in a bowl of water, because in a stream you also have the heter of the fact that you're holding on to the good while the bad falls away, because you don't have that by a bowl. But he doesn't bring that difference, so not sure. Not sure he holds it.
Can you grab it off? This chain?
Yes. Yes.
He's a. If it's
Yes.
If it's mud, if it's sand, you shouldn't, because we will follow it.
If it's dried mud,
But now you make it
you
wet.
can break it up, yeah.
Can you rinse it?
Now you make it
Just with
wet.
a stream of water? Let it go up by
derech achila, Rabbi. Anything derech achila I'm allowed.
Can you rinse
Fill
it?
With a piece of apple.
Can you rinse it? I wonder if there's any isser. There's no isser. I can't think of any isser to make dried mud wet.
From the forward,
You can't break up dried mud, but if you make it wet, what's the isser?
this is breaking your bone.
They go to drain.
On the contrary, if you're making it wet, then it doesn't really break that much. I mean, it breaks a little bit. Is that also toichem if it breaks into bigger pieces?
Not really in a boat, ככה נפל בפנים, אתה מזיק אותו במזרת. זה ככה, טיפה יש לו, מה אתה מזיק? תאכל את זה. צריך קצת לשתות.
אם זה כל כך טיפה, תאכל.
צריך לשתות.
I'm not sure.
Wouldn't that almost becoming like kneading or something like that, or or melting if you put water on hard mud or dirt?
ברוך השם.
I don't know. Do we say, is there kneading after kneading? I don't know. Kneading after kneading. If you make the mud that was dry wet again, is that like you're kneading? Lush. Lush achar lush. Lush achar lush. I think we're going to discuss it at Shachaf Aleph. I don't think there is lush after lush. I don't think so. But we're going to get to it in 321.
Or what about melting? Is there anything like that too? Because it's like you're making it wet. Now it'll just kind of melt off. I don't know.
There's no malacha of melting.
What?
There's
no malacha of melting.
Well,
I cannot hear.
It's like melting in an ice cube.
What's the malacha of melting an ice cream? Maybe it's moiled, but that's when you're creating water, which is a thing. Over here, you're just making mud, which is it's not really different. Water is different than ice. But
okay, I was just curious. I'm not trying to be too religious.
Okay. One may cut off a rotten piece of orange, according to those who allow the removal of fish bones. Same svar. 10. One may not remove psolis from Eichel in order to feed it to an animal. Oh, this was a nice chiddush. Even though I mentioned it a couple of weeks back, but it's worth mentioning again, my friends. We learned this about when we learned turmus. When did we learn turmus? I don't remember. When you remove the part of the turmus that you want to eat, we said you can't do it because what's left behind is considered the oichel, and what you remove is considered the psoilus. Remember we said that?
Make it sweet.
Exactly. The leaves are considered the oichel, and the oichel is considered the psoilus, the turmus. So based on that, sorry?
God said that it's psola, considers psola, and change it to food.
Even though you want to eat it, but because the Torah considers it psoilus, so it's like you're fixing the oichel. You're not allowed to take something you want to eat if you're fixing something called oichel. So based on this, he said,
something that's called psola.
No, something's called oichel. The Torah considers what's left the oichel. Torah considers, you are considering what you want as oichel. Torah is considering what is left as oichel. So we said you can't take it even though you want it. For you, it's oichel. But if the Torah considers that what's left as oichel, it's a problem. So here the chiddush of Shlomo Zalman said based on this is, if you have a mixture of psoilus and oichel, and you want to feed the psoilus to an animal, you can't remove it for the animal. Because what the Torah you can't remove it for the animal. Yeah, you can't remove the psoilus to feed to the animal, because what's left behind is actual oichel, and you're fixing that oichel.
So, remember I had some people that pick up all the leftover of the chicken, the bones and stuff, and give it to a cat or a dog. So you just shouldn't.
That's an interesting shaila.
It's gonna go to the garbage.
Interesting shaila. If it's still mixed in, if it has pieces of oichel on it, it could be its mutter anyway, because a person could eat that. But if it's just the bones, that would be an example of this, actually. You're taking the psoilus, even though it's for immediate use, but you're leaving behind oichel, which becomes fixed. And Shlomo Zalman says that's not allowed, based on that halacha.
We didn't say like if it's still edible for animals, it's not actually psolet.
It is
Muktzah,
psoilus.
it's not muktzah.
It's not muktzah, but it's psoilus compared to the oichel. Now, on the other hand, he says, if you have onions in a salad and you don't like onions, but your friend likes onions, you're allowed to take all the onions and give it to him.
Oh.
Even though you're fixing the rest of the salad for yourself, but that's not really called fixing because most people don't mind onions in the salad. It's not like bones. Most people don't want bones in their chicken. So you take it out, even though it's for the animal, you're fixing it. But over here, most people don't mind it, so you're not actually fixing it. So as long as he wants it, that's okay.
What if you know he's not going to eat all the onions?
Then it's a problem.
You know what calories he's going to eat?
Yeah.
Do harama?
You don't know
No.
how much you're gonna eat. How much
No, I'm saying, he says,
how much you have already.
like, do you want my onions? He says, I'll take some of them.
Yeah.
Eat all of them now.
No. Only what do you think he's going to eat practically? Okay, let's learn a little bit more, then we'll call it a night. If some fruits are fresher than others of the same kind, they're still considered the same kind. If it's completely rotten, we may not remove it even for the purpose that it not cause the other fruit to rot. Okay, this is a very practical thing. You buy those, those clementines in a bag, right? And there's a rotten one or two in the middle. And as long as you leave them there, the rot spreads.
Yep.
Shlomo Zalman says, for sure first of all, if it's only not as fresh, but it's still edible, you can take it out because it's fine, it's edible. If it's already rotten, it's not edible to the average person, you can't take it out. Not only can you not take it out, but you can't even take out
A good one?
okay, the ones that are not immediately around it, it's in the center, right? The ones that are on the side, not even close to it, you can remove, no problem. But the ones that are in the center, even close to it, even those you can't remove unless you want to actually eat them. Understand?
Right.
You want to take the good from the bad. You can only take it if you're going to use it right away.
So wait, they're in the bag. That's it. They're in the bag. You rip the bag. They're all falling. Spread.
Oh, that's another way. That's another way we said. That some places can allow you to spread everything out. And once it's not
But you have to eat one.
close to each other, no, nothing to do with eating.
No?
According to those poskim, if you spread everything out, then you can take whatever. Because once it's not mixed, it's not considered boyer. That is an option, yeah.
So what's the reason you're allowed to spread him?
Because spreading is not boyer, and once it's not mixed, there's no boyer either. We said not everybody holds to that, but that is an option.
Do we allow to do? Are we holding this way?
I never saw anything out there, but one way or the other.
No, I just,
Maybe your Beforkash has a diuk. I don't know. I didn't see anything.
Rabbi, now remember, when I buy one bag, it is about 8 roll. So you're allowed to take one and to eat from
Why not? Why not?
But you cannot separate all of them. So
You can separate them. If there's nothing rotten, you can separate whatever you want.
Oh, yes. You
If
can.
it's all the same, you can separate.
Oh, okay. No separate. It's no border here.
Correct. All right, my friends, let's stop here and continue tomorrow in Yirtzeh Hashem.
I assume you changed your clocks this week.
We changed our clocks already, yes.
I didn't realize until I until I saw that I was an hour late.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How about that? Well, if it's any consolation prize, we started 45 minutes late because we
Yeah, I
were
took
late.
multiple attempts.
So you didn't miss that much.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a good night.